You don't actually need me to explain who the Simpsons are, do you? The Simpsons is an animated series following the day-to-day life of the titular family, a dysfunctional but ultimately loving group comprised of Father Homer, his wife Marge, and their children Lisa, Bart, and Maggie, who live in the fictional town of Springfield, which is itself inhabited by an endless parade of memorable side characters. It feels silly going over this, considering this show has been running for longer than I've been alive, and it has left more of an impact on pop culture than I could ever hope to with my videos. Even Ghostbusters had an episode of its animated series meant to parody The Simpsons, though the characters are actually written more like the Bundy family from Married with Children, but that's a whole other thing. Point is, The Simpsons are immortal, kept perpetually on the air by just enough viewers to consider it worth keeping around. They're also possibly immortal in the literal sense, as nobody in the cast has aged a day in the last 40 years. As of today, The Simpsons has seen 33 seasons come and go, spanning a little over 700 episodes and a theatrical film. So it goes without saying that there have been multiple attempts to cash in on The Simpsons' pop icon status in the form of video games. Easily enough to make an entire video looking at them together, but my reviewer muscles are still developing and I am still painfully unfunny, so we can cross those bridges when we get there. For now, we're going to focus on The Simpsons Hit and Run, developed by Radical Entertainment, published by Vivendi, and released in 2003. We're going to be looking at the GameCube release, though I'll note that the PC release has access to mods that carry the game forward into the modern era. I had considered using the Windows release, but ultimately decided to go with the GameCube version because I had already recorded all the footage on GameCube, and so I took a page from the Book of Homer and decided, who needs some lousy 1080p footage anyway? Stupid sexy 1080p. Moving on to the obligatory part of the video where I talk about the game's development, Radical Entertainment is a Vancouver-based developer founded in 1991. And besides Simpsons Hit and Run and The Incredible Hulk Ultimate Destruction, they're probably best known for developing the Prototype series, though they also worked on Destiny as a support team for the main devs at Bungie. Hit and Run was not Radical's first time in Springfield, having first cut their teeth on The Simpsons Road Rage in 2001, an arcade racer which was so similar to Sega's Crazy Taxi series that they were actually taken to court over it. For a brief review of Road Rage, I think it's a serviceable game. It's fun to race around Springfield at high speeds, weaving around traffic, finding shortcuts, and making it to your destination as fast as you can. The car is very tight handling, but doesn't really slide. It takes a moment to get used to, but after that I was burning rubber up and down the street. There's a nice selection of characters to play as, each with their own unique vehicle, and each character has unique voice lines for picking up passengers, which makes visiting each area interesting.
Hey, Ralph. Hi, Lisa. When I eat paste, my lips get stuck. Ruff, ruff, ruff. Ruff, ruff, ruff. Sure thing.
I'm not a diehard fan of Crazy Taxi, but Road Rage is a good fix for when I'm wanting some arcade racing action. According to my highly sophisticated rating scale, Road Rage comes in at, I like it. I grew up with both games actually, and though it seems that the test of time has shown Road Rage to be the lesser game, overall received negatively by critics due to essentially being Crazy Taxi Simpsons Edition, I can't say I remember ever finishing Hit and Run, which had a much warmer reception. Hit and Run is generally considered to be the best Simpsons game. That's not an especially high bar, mind you, but I'll admit that it's not without merit. Several positive reviews focus on how Hit and Run captures the feeling of the show, which makes sense considering its story was written by The Simpsons' writing team and features the show's vocal talents playing their characters, including Hank Azaria, Nancy Cartwright, and Dan Castellaneta. Though I'll counter that by saying Family Guy video game also captures the feeling of its source material and features its main cast, and suddenly that's not a compliment. Some reviews comment on problems with the AI for other drivers, the cars feeling difficult to control, repetitive gameplay, and the camera getting caught on things when on foot. But even those reviews are a net positive overall. While not perfect, it seems that The Simpsons Hit and Run is generally considered a good game and the best adaptation of The Simpsons. As for Radical Entertainment, we'll probably be seeing plenty of them in the future. They developed 2003's Hulk and 2005's Incredible Hulk Ultimate Destruction, as well as the Crash Bandicoot beat-em-ups, Crash of the Titans, and Crash Mind Over Mutant. Also some CSI video games, cause you totally want to see me review that. To the surprise of nobody, the story of Simpsons Hit and Run revolves around the Simpsons family as they uncover a dubious plot centered around their hometown and attempt to save the day. Strange mechanical insects with head-mounted cameras have been popping up all over Springfield, and before Homer can question their origin, we're told that a new flavor of Buzz Cola has hit the shelves.
And this one isn't poisonous to anybody
that we know of.
Completely derailing his train of thought. The game plays out across 7 chapters, with the first 5 chapters starring a new character before coming back to Homer. Each chapter follows a series of missions with optional races and bonus missions to extend your playtime, as well as collectible cards you have to collect on foot which reference gags from the series' multi-decade run.
Now, why do you have to wash that awful taste out of my mouth?
Mountain Dew or crab juice?
Ugh! Oh, jeez. I'll take a crab juice.
The first level begins, and I'm digging the look. Right away, Springfield has a nice sense of scale. Driving from one location to another goes quickly, but does feel like you've gone a distance from your starting location. And this is largely thanks to a mixture of corners and limited intersections, ultimately looping back like a winding racetrack with the starting line at The Simpsons' driveway. Each playable character has their own driving music, which is a nice touch, which serves to differentiate them and their different personalities, and all contain some elements of the Simpsons' theme song within them. If you're not feeling like driving, you can always explore Springfield on foot. It's not quite as fast, even if you have unlimited stamina for sprinting, but it's also your best bet for uncovering boxes of Buzz Cola coins and camera flies, which you can destroy with your kick attack. Your kick is the only attack in your arsenal, and it's rather ineffectual against anything the game doesn't designate as a target, so we're quite limited in terms of a GTA-style rampage. Kicked NPCs just wiggle on the floor before getting up, which can be funny the first few times, but it wears off fast. Kicking objects and people, as well as hitting them with your car, will build your hit and run meter. And this is actually a bad thing. Filling it will summon an army of police cars which will ram you into a wall and confiscate some of your money. So the game should actually be called The Simpsons Don't Hit and Run, or The Simpsons Obey Street Laws, please and thank you. Even smashing the camera flies builds meter, which is wild because the people of Springfield don't like the spy bots, but evidently like you doing something about them even less? Honestly, that tracks. The money you gather can be spent on new vehicles and outfits for your current Simpson, and some missions will require you to own specific vehicles and specific outfits, so I mostly held on to my money until I knew what I needed to spend it on. Back to the plot, our mission is to drive to the Quickie Mart and pick up a new tub of ice cream which contains miniature pies. I can't tell what's worse, the fact that I believe that being a thing in the Simpsons world, that I believe that being a thing in the real world, or that I think I would want to try that, at least once. We're hopping in the family sedan, and right away this is very different from Road Rage. The car in Road Rage felt so detached from the road that it merely hovered above it, but Hit and Run's cars cling and slip and slide with every turn. It takes getting used to, and it's also possible I'm not a very good driver. I definitely see what previous reviews meant by saying the cars feel swervy. Keeping them going straight is the real trick. Numerous shortcuts litter your path across Springfield, and while I'm not sure I found them all, I found a number of them that really come in handy for races and timed missions. Some of them even contain wrenches, a pickup which repairs your car back to 100% health. That's right, your cars deteriorate when they crash, eventually exploding when they've suffered too much damage. In a game where your car likes to slip around, the streets are littered with props and traffic to crash into, and various mechanics of the game revolve around smacking your car into things. So this is kind of my big complaint with Hit and Run. I don't like that your car has health, and while I understand that it's a matter of realism or doing the same thing as Grand Theft Auto, I just don't think it fits with the game's style, its bouncy driving, or its sometimes congested streets. Most missions in Hit and Run auto-fail if your car explodes, and more importantly, your racing opponents are invincible. As a result, sometimes the AI will slam head-on into you because they have everything to gain but nothing to lose. Getting hit also seems to cause your car to slip around even more for a moment, which lends to death spirals of crashing into one thing after another before planting yourself in a wall. So I guess this game should be called The Simpsons Don't Get Hit, Run. At least the game offers the ability to spawn in any vehicle you own at payphones scattered around the map. I'd make the oh-so-funny joke about kids today not knowing what a payphone is, but eat my shorts, we know what a payphone is, otherwise that Maroon 5 song would make no sense. Each chapter has 3 optional races run by Patty and Selma. Winning all 3 races unlocks new vehicles, which are generally pretty useful, like the Electoris. The race announcers are Ralph Wiggum, Milhouse, and Nelson Muntz, and they each count the race down in a unique way, which does add some charm to the game's presentation.
One, go!
If there's anything this game does get perfectly, it's the Simpsons brand of humor. We pick up the ice cream and return home, but it looks like Lisa forgot her science project, so we have to race Principal Skinner to deliver it. Lisa tells Homer that Marge had called and needs him to come home. Friendly neighbor Ned Flanders is ticked off, and it might have something to do with Homer having stolen a number of his belongings. Better grab everything before he calls the police.
You remember that cooler I gave you for your birthday? Well, Flanders wants it back.
Now what will I use for a toilet?
We return Ned's things, but now it looks like Homer's gonna be late for work. So naturally, we're going to have to rush to the Springfield nuclear power plant before Homer gets fired, right? Nope. Instead, we're gonna go talk to Homer's friend Lenny, buy Barney's snowplow from him, and then we're gonna use it to hunt down and destroy Mr. Smithers' car. Of course! After that, we drive to work, and Homer laments on how he can't just sleep through his shift because of the plant security cameras, so we smash them. This evidently takes several hours because by the time we're done, it's time to go home. The evening news shows the growing outrage in Springfield over the spy cameras, and sightings of mysterious black vans have been reported across town. Homer sees a van outside the house and decides to follow it back to its source. So far, we've had 1 racing mission, 1 car combat mission, and 1 on-foot mission. With this chase mission, we'll have seen the bulk of what Hit and Run has to offer us. You're either chasing a car, racing a car, smashing a car, or not doing anything in a car, though there will be a few missions that deviate a little. The van eventually stops at Mr. Burns' estate, and seemingly satisfied with knowing this, Homer starts to drive home. But what's this? Marge is at the grocery store, concerned about a new violent video game, demanding that Homer get in the car and help her destroy the game before it can negatively impact the youth of Springfield.
But that game sounds awesome,
And therefore should be destroyed.
I guess.
It's a smashing mission, only knocking into the delivery van causes a pickup to fall out the back. Collect a specified amount within the time limit, and you complete the mission.
If only kids would play more video games about sharing.
Marge, you know I abhor crazy plans. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have to go spy on my boss.
Back to stalking Mr. Burns, you race against Smithers to reach Burns' mansion first, but when you arrive, Burns explains that the black vans are allegedly pizza trucks and fires Homer for being an idiot. With this, we end Chapter 1. The variety of missions in Chapter 1 serves as a vertical slice for the rest of Hit and Run, so I feel like detailing each mission in each chapter would just be unneeded padding. In Chapter 2, we play as Bart and he tries to get a copy of a new violent video game, which seems to be experiencing a shortage thanks to our previous efforts.
Too late, losers. I got the last game. 4-finger discount. Some crazy lady destroyed all the rest.
When will they learn? Video games don't kill people, they just kill their minds.
A notable mission here is a quest where you need to help Dr. Nick gather a bunch of escaped monkeys.
Why won't they come back to you?
Because I have tortured them horribly, silly.
He eventually helps Professor Fink build a robot dinosaur, which is unfortunately presented to us as a cutscene and not an actual mission, which is kind of a letdown. Bart gets abducted by aliens, and we spend Chapter 3 as Lisa trying to determine his whereabouts, asking around the Springfield pier before finally finding Bart aboard a ship in a delusional state. The bonus mission here involves Principal Skinner having Lisa run errands for him to keep her from finding Bart, which is pretty on brand.
Delightfully devilish, Seymour.
Chapter 4 follows Marge as she tries to snap Bart out of his confusion, investigating a local crop circle and determining that his abduction had something to do with Buzz Cola, which causes Bart to snap back to reality and explain that the soda contains a mind-altering substance used by aliens to drive the citizens of Springfield insane. In a pleasant surprise, Chapter 5 hands the reins to Apu, following him as he tries to atone for selling the drugged soda at his store by tracking the Buzz Cola to its source, discovering that the plot was devised by Kang and Kodos, whom have been filming a reality show based in Springfield. In an attempt to boost the show's ratings, Kang and Kodos plan to pour Buzz Cola in the water supply, distribute laser guns to the townspeople, and film the resulting carnage.
You've got to prevent the aliens from putting laser guns in the hands of cola-drunk townspeople.
Why? That sounds hilarious. I'd watch that show.
I tell you what, you're a bad little boy.
Chapter 6 follows Bart once again, and it's about here where the game really begins to try my patience. By the time you're playing as Apu, time windows have become very tight and opponents are exploiting every shortcut possible. But downtown Springfield's shortcuts are not difficult to find or risky to use. The Springfield docks, however, ooh boy. One of the more useful shortcuts on this strip allows you to skip a turnabout, but there's a mechanical arm that routinely drops and blocks your path. Unfortunately, you can't see if the arm is up or down before you go down the ramp, so there's a certain chance each time that you'll just slam into a wall, damaging your car and potentially getting stuck. Ramps are equally risky as you'll sometimes just land on cars or slap into walls, but we'll get to ramps in Chapter 7. In fact, some of Chapter 6's missions feel outright dickish, like chasing missions where the target car zooms off as soon as the mission is accepted. When I caught up to the target, it tells me to talk to the driver, which you have to do on foot, so I walk up to the car and what the fuck? It seems the driver starts going if you drive up to them, so I use that and race as quickly as possible to— oh, come on! Bart proves the existence of the alien plot and destroys the stands distributing the ray guns. But unfortunately, the cola in the water causes the dead to rise in their graves, so it's time for Chapter 7, or as I like to call it, The Simpsons. I have no hit, and I must run. Chapter 7 converts Evergreen Terrace into a landscape reminiscent of the show's Treehouse of Horrors anthology series. Zombies roam the streets, though they don't actually pose a threat as they're just reskinned civilians. Vehicles have been swapped out for some fun Halloween-style rides. Skeleton coffins, ghost cars, and witches on broomsticks that are really hard to see when you're moving at high speed. Hopefully, we don't need to do that. The first mission passes by without incident, racing around to gather supplies to weather the zombie apocalypse. But it seems Professor Frink has a plan to take on the aliens, which boils down to strap a barrel of nuclear waste to the back of my car and drive it into the UFO. Which I can't really argue with, carry on. Unfortunately, we seem to have a time limit. The car's fast and hard to control, the school's on the whole other side of town, and if you collide with anything too hard, the barrel explodes and you need to drive back to the power plant to get another. There's a wave of relief when the vehicle goes into the light and detonates, but the UFO just doesn't seem to go down just yet. Well, that didn't work, so what's next? Surely we have a satisfying quest line meant to wrap up this crazy Simpsons adventure. You then proceed to do the same quest of drive a car into the UFO 3 more times. First, you drive your car, then you drive Snake's car, and finally you drive Grandpa's car, which is a Jeep with a fucking rocket strapped to it. The final run was pain incarnate, and I have roughly an hour's worth of footage of me failing it over and over and over. And the time window is so small that you have to use every shortcut available, including this jump in the graveyard that sent me slapping into a tree or a wall, or jumping the mountain of burning tires only to collide with a sign or land directly on a car. Add in a sequence where you need to shake a black car without crashing, as well as there being so many props on the sidewalk that it's next to impossible to avoid getting hit and run, and this mission was the exact opposite of fun for me. Complete the mission, UFO goes down, and all seems to be well in Springfield. That was painful. If you get 100% completion, you unlock a bonus game where you race cars on an RC-style track, and, it's not great. Maybe more fun with friends, but hit and run's driving plus this perspective is no bueno. Another unlockable, and a more interesting one in my opinion, is an original Itchy and Scratchy cartoon you can view after collecting all the game's trading cards. This is a neat reward even if it's pretty short, and I think I would have preferred it 2D rather than this cel-shaded 3D look, but still cool, good stuff. Hit and Run was a wild ride, one that I didn't entirely enjoy come the second half. The first few chapters suffer the least from the game's problems, but by the end, you're fighting against the game to claim ground. A lot of my late game successes didn't feel earned. A lot of the times it felt like I had simply gotten lucky, and that's something I hate in games, winning simply because the game felt like letting me win. The game's humor lessens the pain, as I did enjoy hearing what all the characters had to say and watching the plot unfold, but at the end of the day, if that's all I enjoyed, I would have been better off just watching the show.
There I was surrounded by Tojo and his Nazi henchmen, when one of them, a raccoon as I recall, hits me with a banjo. Now, I never reasoned with a raccoon, let alone a Nazi one, so
Grandpa, what does this have to do with the crop circle?
Not a thing! Where was I?
The game is funny, make no mistake of that, but it needs to be more than funny, it needs to be fun. Overall, this game starts off with promise, a little awkward but enjoyable, before growing less and less fun as an experience, kind of like the show it was based on. I'm glad to finally have the closure on finishing this game, but the numbers don't lie, and according to my scoring system, The Simpsons Hit and Run ranks in at worth playing once. If I get bored, I might putter around the game's early levels, but I'll reach for another game well before I give Hit and Run another proper playthrough. And that's The Simpsons Hit and Run. If my trash take on your childhood game hasn't turned you off the channel, please consider liking, subscribing, maybe joining the Discord server or checking out my Patreon. By joining the Discord, you can participate in the channel by casting your vote towards the next game I cover. This time, your options are Eternal Ring, Star Wars Bounty Hunter, Billy Hatcher and the Giant Egg, Marlow, Briggs and the Mask of Death, and X-Men Legends. Eternal Ring is a 2000 release developed by From Software well before Dark Souls would punish the gaming community. The game focuses on a young magician by the name of Kane Morgan, sent to investigate the Island of No Return in search of the Eternal Ring, a powerful magical artifact, and presents itself as a first-person action RPG similar to From Software's earlier work on the Kingsfield series. Star Wars Bounty Hunter, released by LucasArts in 2002, tells the story of the bounty hunter Jango Fett prior to his appearance in the legendary series' fifth film, Attack of the Clones. Presented as a third-person shooter with platforming elements, Jango will be hunting targets and gunslinging his way through the shadier locales of the Star Wars universe. Billy Hatcher and the Giant Egg is a 2000 release from Sonic Team, following the adventure of the titular Billy as he attempts to save his home of Morningland from an army of evil crows. Gameplay largely revolves around growing and hatching eggs to defeat said crows, using the eggs to dunk, slam, and dash his way through the different stages. Marlow, Briggs and the Mask of Death, developed by Zootfly in 2013, tells a ridiculous B-movie style adventure about Marlow Briggs, a man back from the dead after his wrongful murder at the hands of villain Heng Long. Aided by an ancient mask housing the spirit of a dead Mayan emperor, Marlow is out to save his girlfriend Eva and get his revenge in the most bombastic, action movie-inspired way possible. Finally, X-Men Legends is a 2004 release from Raven Software, and the game I would like to talk about before I considered looking at its spiritual successor in Marvel Ultimate Alliance. X-Men Legends follows the story of a young mutant, Allison Crestmere, as her powers develop and she is trained to become a member of the X-Men, all the while fighting against the forces of the Brotherhood of Mutants, their leader Magneto, as well as various other X-Men villains. And those are the games. Join the Discord and let us know what you'd like to see me cover next. I'll see you then. Bye-bye.